Hi everybody, Russ and my Hammers 11. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you're made aware of any time we put new videos on or new series or whatever. Make sure you hit that bell icon. Today's guest is another one from across the pond. We love our friends from across the pond. And it's Liam Bright. How are we, Liam? How are we today, man?
Cheers, I'm doing well, Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, man. How's things with you generally? How are you coping in this weird world we live in now?
Loving it. I mean, it's definitely different. It's adapt or die, to put it
Yeah.
lightly. But it's been interesting. I've got two young ones at home, and my boy, he's 5 now, and so we've had to do the homeschooling. So it's been a bit more pressure on the wife as she's had to play teacher quite a bit, and then we've got a 1-year-old daughter as well. So trying to balance the 1-year-old, the 5-year-old, and then I'm back and forth for work, and just keep living, right?
Yeah. I've got a newfound respect for teachers, having done the whole, and it's like you've got like a 5-year-old. My daughter's 8, so it's like it's even more complicated things and maths and how they taught us when we were young. It's all different now, and it's like you get shouted out because you're not, I don't know, putting it into special columns and things like that. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I've got a newfound respect for them because it's just like, yeah, it's amazing being a teacher. And yeah, I'm quite glad that they've gone back to school. Although it's half term in the UK now, so
Sure.
so they've got a week off to relax a little bit or try and do something. But that's the trouble. There's not like kids clubs or anything because they're because of COVID, they're all shut. And so it's sort of, yeah, at least when there was homeschooling, you had sort of the the punishment potential of having to do more homework for not tidying your room or eating all your vegetables or things like that. Now it's like she knows it's the holidays. She's like, I'm gonna what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And that's the best bit when they start talking back to you, because I'm like, fair enough. If she comes back to me with a really sort of comprehensive answer to why she shouldn't do it, yeah, fair play. I'm not gonna fuss you.
If anything, you're gonna be impressed by how quickly she adapted to the situation as well.
Yeah.
Like she weighed and measured exactly what the options were and said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do."
At the end of the day, the teacher doesn't put me no homework, Daddy. Russ doesn't call me, yeah, Daddy. What are you going to do? It's like, oh, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, I love that when that happens, because it's like, she's like, you'll get it. So your 5-year-old, a little bit more, just trying to test the water to see what they can get away with. And I love it. It's a great age. It's a great age from 5 onwards.
It's the personality comes out. You know what I mean? They really start to become their person, and I dig it, man. It's funny because the things that frustrate me about him are the things that are exactly what I do. So
exactly.
Like he argues just for the sake of arguing. And I'm like, oh, and I'll get frustrated. My wife will look at me and she's like, you do that. Like, you can't be mad at him because you do that constantly. And I'm like, yeah, it's fair play.
I'm the same.
Irish.
Yeah, that's what it is. For me, it's the other way around. I'm like your wife. I'm not the one who's like, it's always not like my wife and my daughter are so alike that they clash, because they are so alike, and I'm the one in the middle, and I'm like, well, it's like sitting in a mirror between you two, it's like, and that's what's fun, and that's why I'm sort of always the good or the fun parent, and my wife's always the bad cop, because it's just the way it's always worked. But and she knows when she's crossed it. When I raise my voice, she knows that gone too far, so she's like backs down. But yeah, no, it's funny, isn't it? I love it anyway, and that's what I love about this channel, because we just chat about children and stuff for 5 minutes, and why not?
Why not? Right? It's all part of it, and you got to keep in consideration, right? Like, we're raising that next generation of Hammers fans.
True.
Like that Hammers family, that united, that support, and I think it's crucial, right? Like with my son when he was first born, right? So he was born Christmas Eve 2014. Right. And that 2014, 2015 season was I thought it was pretty crucial. And I loved it because I used to, try to give the wife a break, and I would take him down and I would try to keep him asleep by singing Bubbles. Right. Like, I'm standing there in the living room. The wife's upstairs, still in the loft, she's sleeping, and I'm singing in Bubbles. So he's been raised on this. Right. Like, he's known this day one, minute one. So, he'll still pop up early. He might pass out a little bit if the game's not, kicking on quite enough for him to be excited. But, he'll wake up early, and out here on the west coast of California, it's 4 a.m. games.
Yes.
So it's hard for a young kid like that to still keep that interest. But if he sees me in claret and blue, he immediately runs to his room and he wants to throw on one of his kids. So power to the kid. Like he's bought in hook, line, and sinker. I feel bad. I've set him up for a lifetime of disappointment.
Same as my daughter. She was scarred after I think 3 days. Her due date was the playoff final in 2012, and so and I had a really good ticket, so I was there obviously.
Yeah.
And then she was born a few days later. It was, Liam, it was a really good ticket. It was like, I was front row, in the middle, like where Vastay scored. I was there, so it was good, and it was free as well because I was doing a bit of work for, I was walking the mascots around. And so, yes, my daughter was due, but we know they never come on time. First ones, so so I was allowed to go. And within 3 days, I had a picture of her in the playoff trophy. So, so she was very much scarred from an early life, unfortunately. But it's character building, I think, Liam. I think it's character building. They 100%. Can't have everything. They can't win every game. You can't get everything you want. So you must enjoy the times you do get when something comes your way.
It's the sweet and the sour, right? You can't appreciate the sweet without that sour as well.
Exactly. You can't do both. So you can't. We all can't be Liverpool fans, can we?
Thank God.
Yeah, or Man United or Man City or Chelsea, where they win everything, or they win every other couple of seasons. It's we got to distribute these sort of supporters out, and I think with West Ham, as I said, it's character building. It's it's like I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and his kid was like, I might go and support Liverpool. He was like young, and he was like, well, and he sort of convinced him to support West Ham, and he's glad he supports West Ham, obviously at the moment because we're playing quite well at the moment. But it's it is character building, and as you said, when we do get those, those peaks, those highs, which don't come along very often, but we do enjoy them a bit too much. Although we've always got that sort of pessimistic bit in the back of our head. So at the moment, it's that we've done very well. We've 2 games, no goals conceded. We scored 7. Obviously, then we had the Tottenham game, then we had the Man City game. So we've done all right. And then obviously Antonio's out, so it's like might be out for the next game. We're like, well, that's it. That's our season gone. That's our season. It's not like we've got a £45 million striker on the bench who could probably do a good job. You know what I mean?
What if we did?
It's like when Masuaku came back potentially injured from international duty, and it was like crisis 101. We didn't know what to do with ourselves. 3 months ago, if you said that that situation was going to play out with Masuaku being injured and we were already worried, you'd have told him to fuck off. You know what I mean? Because it's like what? Oh, yeah. But it's been mental the last sort of half a dozen games for West Ham at the moment, and long may it continue. But we know it's not. We know we're going to lose as soon as we play someone outside the top 6. But that's being a West Ham fan, and that's what we know, and that's why I love it, because it's just so unpredictable.
It's the roller coaster. It's the rise and fall. That's what it needs to be. Because for you to fully appreciate what you've got, like you need to know that, we would love consistency, right? Like who wouldn't love finishing in the top 10 every season? But sometimes the drama, right? Like that, we like that. Yeah. We enjoy that, even though we'll curse the players on the pitch, but we're still here. Right, we still support season after season. So there's either something inherently wrong with us, or we're masochists and we love the pain. I don't know.
Yeah. I interviewed a gentleman a few weeks ago, and he likened West Ham and his sort of our sort of association with West Ham as being an abusive relationship. In that you cook them a nice dinner, that you think they turn up and you think they'll behave, and they do behave for a little bit. But they always come back to and they'll knock you about, but you always welcome them back in the door the next day, and that's just West Ham, isn't it? But that's it. And I think that's why we're such a unique group of fans, and I think that's why we have such a unique group of fans all over the world. Like as I said, I'll be fucking 4 o'clock or whatever, 4:30 to get a 12:30. It's mental. Yeah. I wouldn't even get up at 4:30, and I live 20 minutes from the ground. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's crazy what you guys go through, and that's why I love interviewing you guys, because you just have this sort of this passion, and it's like I think it's so much more than sort of anyone based within 40 minutes of the ground, really, because we're sort of spoiled to it. But you guys, I think it's great, and obviously all the stuff with the Hammers, American Hammers Network you do and stuff like that. I love it. I just think it's so much fun, and it's great. It does make me smile, because obviously I watch all the content, and it always makes me laugh, because you've got more bloody Brits on the American Hammers network than on the British YouTube stuff, isn't it? It's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
It's a lot of expats, right? Like, you got a lot of people that jump the pond, they come over here, whether it's work or family or what have you.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to highlight that, right? Where sometimes it's not always just Americans that started supporting, Man City or Liverpool because they watched them, win the league, or they played them with them in FIFA, and they were like, oh, this is a good team. Like, these are kids, like, one of the guys we've had on the network for a bit, his name's Charlie, right? Like, his dad's from, I think, Canning Town. So it's like he was born and raised in New York, but like he was born and raised a West Ham fan. And I think it's important to take some of that into consideration, where not everybody's born into the club. Like you said, not everybody's a stone throw from the stadium, but, a lot of us, if we're working class, or, I'm an Irish American. So for me, we were kind of raised on Irish luck, where, things are going to go bad a lot of the time. And you resonate with certain teams. You have certain players, certain seasons that you just feel like it echoes your life. It's like an extension of what you had going on in your own existence. And, I love that. I love that about, whether it's West Ham or, we have other supporters groups here in Fresno as part of the 559 FC, that they support other clubs, but they have their own reasons. And whether I agree or disagree with it, I still appreciate that they found their own way,
Yeah. And it's so true. I mean, so your journey, Liam, obviously you're Irish American, but why West Ham? Why was that your club? Why is that one you picked? There's 92 of them in the UK. You picked West Ham. Why was that, man?
So we have I liken it to where the universe kind of conspires against you in some regard. So my West Ham was always just popping up in my life as a kid. So my grandmother was a big fan of EastEnders. So she used to watch that on this little, like, 13-inch black and white TV. And as a kid, I used to sit there and watch it because I loved the accents, right? Like, my mother, huge Sherlock Holmes fan, used to read me the stories. We used to watch the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes with, oh man, what's his name? Oh, I can't think of the actor's name, but, even going all the way back to, like, Basil Rathbone, right? Like, way back onto the Baskervilles. So, London connection there, EastEnders, East End of London connection there. I grew up a huge punk rock fan, like, heavy tattoos, stretched ears, piercings, and all that good stuff. But, Cockney Rejects were one of my favorite bands growing up. So you've got, you got the West Ham connection. I was also into metal, Iron Maiden, another West Ham connection. So it was just like all these little things just kept connecting. So I want to say it was like 1996 or 1997. Movie had come out called Air Force One, right? That had Harrison Ford, but it had Gary Oldman in it. Yeah. So a buddy of mine, we had been playing, soccer, football since we were kids. And we watched Gary Oldman. We're like, oh, this actor's badass. Let's see what else he's in. Soccer movie pops up called The Firm. So we watched The Firm with Gary Oldman, and we were just like, this is insane. So at that point, I was like, yeah, I want to learn more about this team. But you're thinking, like, late 90s, internet's barely kind of getting a start. Yeah. And there wasn't really a whole lot of Premier League games that got shown over here. And our league, our domestic league at that time, was kind of a joke. We had like 10 teams, 12 teams. MLS was not really a force to be reckoned with. But post 1994, soccer fever was huge here in the States.
Of course.
So I want to say it was beginning in 1999. I started being able to catch random, like, highlight clips. Like, sometimes it was match of the day, sometimes it was just highlights. And I remember watching Paulo Di Canio just absolutely annihilate, the keeper, just blasting in a half volley. And I want to say it was early 99, maybe like February of 1999. Yeah. And I was like, yes, West Ham is my team. So anytime I could catch anything, whether it was looking up scores, trying to catch radio broadcasts, like ones that were getting rebroadcast online. And it was always, slow modem speed. So everything's, a couple minutes behind and whatnot. But I just became, like, voracious when it came to West Ham and trying to find everything that I could. After that, fast forward a couple of years, after I'm out of university and I'm doing bands and, we're on tours and whatnot, same things. Phones are getting better, smarter phones, you can watch interviews and read interviews and catch all these clips. So it just kind of continued to snowball from there. 2003, though, when we got relegated, it was real hard to get championship stuff.
Of course, yeah.
So, like, 2003, 2004, once we got back up though, and then when we made the FA Cup run in 06, like that's where it really started to pick up. We got a lot more content for West Ham here in the States. And then after 06, like for 07, 08, like the after Sheringham left, like I want to say it started to quiet down a little bit then. 2010, same thing. We started to pick back up once it was the GSB buyout, and then relegation again, right? And then 2011, 2012, we're down, jump right back up with Allardyce, and then it kind of continues from there. So I'd really say from like 2014 on, I mean, it was super easy to get any West Ham content, find games, all of that. But really that dark age between 99 to like probably about 2009, it was hit or miss. It was really hard to stay up to date on everything that was going on. But, you suffer through it, you pick up what you can. And,
I love it. Yeah.
I credit just the universe for making me a West Ham fan and just, constantly keeping it in my peripheral. So.
Well, that's the first time I think we've had Gary Oldman be a reason why you've become a West Ham fan. That's brilliant, man. That's so funny. And you're right. I don't think, obviously we've had obviously Jeff from the Cotley Rejects on the channel.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're getting Steve Harris soon. And so we had his nephew on, Joe Lazarus, who's a kick-ass drummer. He's brilliant. And so but you're right. I don't think we realise the effect that people, as you said, like the Cotley Rejects. So obviously when we meet Jeff, he's like, we play in, I don't know, little random bars in Argentina, and there's West Ham shirts, and the impression that they've made on a lot of people, and this is with yourself as well, and sort of obviously you've made and Steve as well. It's funny how people get around, but it doesn't matter what area how they come in, what sort of avenue, what path, they all become part of the family, isn't it? And as you said, and also do the Hammers, obviously the Fresno Irons, I mean, God, fuck, that's a testimony to itself, man. Obviously we had text on a couple of weeks ago and find out how, just went around just basically shouting at all the other supporters clubs until found another West Ham fan. And what a great gang, all you Fresno Irons together. It was like 25 years, 25, 30, something like that.
I mean, we've had between 30 and 40 at like at the apex, right? Like the highest level. And I got to give a shout. So, repping my Fresno Irons right now so everybody can see. But it's, one of the things some people don't understand is like Tex, obviously he's from Texas, right? I'm originally from New York. But these guys still welcomed us as though we were one of their own. It wasn't like, oh, these guys are by association because they're West Ham fans. Like this was day one, minute one. And I'll never forget the first time I went and met Tex. Like he had been messaging me on Twitter like, hey, you should come out. You should come out. You should come out. And I was like, yeah, my wife's pregnant. Like, we're going to wait for the baby to come out once the baby's here. And he was like, oh, bring her. No, bring her. We've got donuts. Like, we'll hook it up. And I was like, nah, man, I'm going to wait. So he just kept bugging me. And I was like, fine, whatever. I'll go out. So the first one that I go, we have a bar here called Hook and Ladder. That's the Chelsea bar. So it was Chelsea away. Just on a whim, I'm like, whatever, I'll go. So I meet up. As I walk in the door, this bearded dude just raises his arms. He's like, Liam? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, thank God. And he runs up and gives me a hug. Never met him before in my life. But that was the first interaction. Like he immediately just welcomed me in. And there's maybe only like 5 of us there at the time against easily like 15 Chelsea fans. And within minutes, we're out singing them, out shouting them, climbing on the tables. The bartender is a West Ham supporter. She's wearing a West Ham kit. Like it's just, it's completely mental. But it's one of those things like out of a movie, right? You never expect this kind of support. We had a couple other guys come in, but lo and behold, that's where we win 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. First time in 23 years? Like
something like
it was one of those moments that just you'll never forget. Like you'll absolutely never forget. And I think had I been able to bring my son, but obviously it's a bar, so they're not letting kids in under. But I think even for him, like that would have been that moment for him as well. But he's been able to go to some of the other ones because we have a local bar that they let the kids come in. And so he's been there running through the bubbles, brings his own bubble wand and whatnot. And, he has a blast. Like the wife, my daughter had already been to like 3 games by the time she was like not even 6 months. Like it's great. Like you can't put a price on that kind of stuff.
I love it. It's so nice because obviously all the stuff you do with the kids with the bubble machines and getting the colouring in and stuff like that. it's just amazing. Honestly, it's amazing because it seems such a nice like fam, and we say we're a family club and stuff like that, and that just epitomizes it, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And it's just. Yeah, I love the fact you was playing Chelsea away, so you went to the Chelsea pub. It's brilliant. I just find it absolutely amazing. I find it crazy how in Fresno you got so many bloody different supporter groups, and it's just everyone has their own bar. And it's just it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, man. And as you said, it's one of those things with West Ham connect people, and I mean, I've said we've been social distancing, as West Ham fans for years, because literally you could walk across the road and you'd see someone in a West Ham shirt. You don't have to shake their hand. You just go, Orange, right,
Yeah.
right, and that's it. That's all you do. And that's all you do. Come on, Orange, that's it. And you don't have to shake a hand. You don't have to go near them within 2 meters. We've been very, we're very conditioned to social distance for many years before COVID came out. So it's yeah. I love it. Honestly, it's brilliant.
So we're big Disney fans, my family. So it's only about 4-hour drive from Fresno down to LA, right? So we'll go in, we'll go in the parks, and whether I'm wearing a kit or wearing the cap, and somebody recognizes the pins, right? They I actually find that supporters of other clubs are actually more likely to come up and want to talk. Whereas you're right, with West Ham supporters, they'll just go, come on, you Irons, and we'll just keep walking. We don't stop, we don't talk. But there was a Man U kid comes running up to me, and he's wants to shoot the shit, and I'm, I'll do it. I'll talk to anybody. But I just always thought it was funny that they almost want to gloat about what their club's doing, and for us, we know, we all know what we're in. So it's interesting. I like that you guys it's the same where you are.
Yeah, we are, and when I go on vacation. See, I said vacation, not holiday. When I go on vacation, I always literally my wife, she hates it because my suitcase is full of West Ham tops. Just different era. Because you put a West Ham top and you walk around the pool area or the bar, and as you said, you'll get I know Celtic fans or Liverpool fans. They just come up and just chat to you. The West Ham fans will nod to each other, and that's it. That's all you need to know. It's like this weekend I've been in the UK. We quit glamping. Glamorous
glam camping.
Yeah, so we went glamping for the first time ever, and the guy in the tent next to us, we started chatting to him. And I was like, where do you live? And we're probably, we're about from the glamping site. We were probably about 2.5 hours from. I live in Hornchurch, which is about 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away from the ground. Talking to the guy next tent. So we're chatting. Oh, what do you do? So we had a West Ham top on, so he started chatting to me. Oh, I said, where are you from? Turns out he's literally 2 minutes down the road from me, and so we were 2.5 hours. It happens all the time. We was in a cruise on the Mediterranean, and the guy next to us, he was the nephew of the kid in my daughter's class at school, and all that type of stuff. But it was a West Ham shirt that they came over and started chatting to first, and that's why I love it. It's such a conversation starter. Sometimes it's an ender as well when they realise you actually are a genuine West Ham fan and stuff, and they'll try and sort of not talk to you too much. But no, I love it, man. It's absolutely brilliant.
Right, yeah, I had we were horrible cough. No, you're good. No, I was in Monterey Bay, and we're standing on the beach, just skipping rocks into the water, and guy comes up to me, British accent, and he starts asking, he goes, "Pardon me, are you English?" And I was like, "No, I'm American." And he's like, "I was just wondering, why are you wearing West Ham?" And I kind of gave him the background story, and he goes, and I was like, "What about you?" And he goes, "No, I'm a Chelsea supporter." He was like, I moved from London, so I didn't have to see people in claret and blue. I started laughing. So I was like, I'm sorry. Am I bringing back bad memories? And he goes, no. Yeah. He goes, he's like, you're delightful. He was like, but just different there. And I was like, I believe it. But it's funny because you'll get people that'll ask those kind of questions. It's good times. I love it.
Yeah, it's good because it's unusual, isn't it? It's like, if I was walking down the road here and I saw someone in a Patriots top or whatever, it's not not the dumb thing, but you don't see, different sport like American football sport, teams support here, it's like that, but that's all good. At least you start a conversation with someone, and all be a Chelsea fan. But yeah, okay,
yeah, of course, right? With my luck, that's
exactly through gritted teeth. Oh yes, I'm very well, thank you. Good luck to you. Have a good season.
Yeah, hope you guys finish it's 17th. See ya.
Yeah, all the best. Good luck to you, Fat Frank. Hope you get sacked.
Yeah, right.
Right. Right. Let's go on and talk about your 11. So obviously, everyone we've had on the channel, fan, ex-player, whatever, I asked them to give their 11. So 11 and you can, the criteria you can have is whatever you want, but the only rule is you have to be alive to have seen them play. That's the only rule. Otherwise, we'd all have the same 11 pretty much, because we'd all have, Bobby Moore and Billy Bonds and stuff. But I wasn't there to see them, so they're not in my 11. It's fair, it's just a generational thing. So we'll start off in goal, Liam. So who's in goal for the Bright 11?
So this one was tough because I wanted to keep my 11 somewhat different from Texas, right? Because he's my co-host. We work together on the American Hammers Radio, so I wanted it to be slightly different. And he came on, a couple years after I did. So for the most part, we didn't have a lot of redundancy. But initially, I was going to go Rob Green, but I really thought about this one. I had to go with Shaka Hislop, and a couple reasons why I went with Shaka for this one. So 2 different spells with West Ham. He kind of had to fight for his spot, right? Like the first time he's brought in, they bring in, where he was support, right? The first time they bring him, he was support for Jimmy Walker and who else was there at the time? Carroll, not Andy, obviously, the other Carroll.
Roy Carroll,
Roy Carroll, thank you. So, he gets brought in for that one, has to fight for his spot, right? And then, leaves, comes back on his second stint, and they bring in David James. So he's already gets brought back, and now he's already second string. David James gets injured, right? I think it was like a knee injury, and Shaka's the point man, and you keep in mind, I think some people forget that, sure, he had some howlers, he struggled a little bit that second term, but he featured in that entire FA Cup run. So I think that was massive on his part, and he did get Hammer of the Year his first season with the club. So I think it was 98. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive for somebody that wasn't really considered a first string keeper for a good majority of the time he was with the club. So, Shaka for me.
Yeah, and he's a dude. He's such a dude. You've had him on the channel. He's absolutely. I love him, and obviously he's ESPN. If your side, it's obviously on the east side rather than your side, but he's just such a lovely bloke. Honestly, it's one of those players. When you talk about Shaka, when you just mentioned Shaka Hislop, you have to smile because he just was such a cool guy, and he was just like so. I always mention it every time we talk about Shaka Hislop, but when I was young, I lived in another town, and I used to work in the supermarket when I was a young kid, and Shaka would come and do his grocery shopping every week, and but you saw him because his head was above the aisle because he was so tall, and he was just
nuts.
laid back and so cool, and he was an absolute gent, and I love him, and I really, really love him, and he's he's a top guy. And as I said, we spoke for hours, and bless him because his aircon had gone, and he was sweating buckets in the interview. Bless him. But he was, and I was trying to sort of not when I interview players, I try not to talk about their bad periods of the, also positive stuff. So I glossed over the fact that he got injured and he didn't play very well, and that sort of until he left, and I sort of went back to and then obviously he carried on, and then you left. Thinking, well, no, but obviously that period I wasn't very good, and one of the and he was like got into it, and he's like basically Glenn Road had come in and told him he was going to be, third string or second string, whatever it was, after they brought in the more goalkeepers, and then they got injured, and he said, I want you to play, and he says, I just switched off, to be honest, Russ. I just didn't want to play for the club because the manager didn't want you. The manager doesn't want you. You're sort of surplus to requirements. And I was, fair enough.
Well, and Roeder was, Roeder was kind of, I feel like he had a row with a lot of people on the during that time. You know what I mean? Like after Redknapp left, right? After Redknapp was gone, it was kind of interesting because Roeder, he had a row with DeCanio as well. It was very public.
Yeah.
Like I even remember reading about that at the time. And I get it. Like DeCanio's a fiery individual, but like you said, Shaka's so laid back. Like how are you going to get Shaka worked up? But, I could see that. I could definitely see him kind of being switched off, especially when he came back for that little bit after that injury towards the end of his second spell. But, it was interesting.
Yeah, and it's the same as
My
it's the
mother-in-law's
same as
calling my wife.
oh dear, it's the same as if you're changing jobs yourself, and you go on you give your notice, so you work a month notice. You're on downtime. You're not really
Yeah.
working, because your head's ready for the next move and the next job. It's the same thing, but it was just nice the fact he just sort of mentioned that, because it was sort of like just I wasn't, I deliberately didn't want to talk about when you was a bit crap, and but
Right.
but he was like, no, I was crap, He told us why, but right, okay, we'll put Shaka in then. Let's go. Are we gonna play a 4-4-2, Liam?
Let's do a four. We'll do a 4-3-3. That was
Oh,
my preferred lineup. Here in the States, that was kind of the default. Everybody played a 4-3-3. So when I think of like my top 11, I'll always go 4-3-3.
all right, okay. Let's go left back then of that back four.
Ooh, left back then. We'll go Julian Dix. Got to go with
Yeah,
Dixie here. I mean, the Terminator. I mean, he was making headlines for when I first kicked on, and I loved the fact
really.
that he was a fighter. Like to me, that kind of
Yeah.
embodied that working class, that working man mentality. And especially when somebody comes back to the club, like I was saying with Shaka, somebody that
Mm.
left. Dixie didn't really have the greatest spell with Liverpool, so coming back into West Ham, knowing that it was kind of a chance that Redknapp was taking a chance bringing him back in. I think he gets a yellow card like first run out, but that's Dixie. Like I'm fine with that. I'm fine with him being that type of guy.
Yeah.
But club captain, hammer of the year, multiple years. I mean, you got to go with Julian Dix.
Yeah. You're right, and there's definitely an 11 somewhere, or someone to do an 11 of I'm going to call them the boomerang 11. So the players who've gone and come back, and so you've already picked two, but you could probably do that as well. It'd be interesting to do that. I might try and get something there. Right, okay, and you're right. Julian's just Julian. You have to put him in. It's just
You have to.
two ways
If
about it. Yeah.
you know.
If you
So
saw
let's
him play,
go.
go on in.
Right.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So you want to go right back, or do you want me to go down my
Yes,
center
please.
base?
Let's go.
All right,
Let's
so
go right
I'm
back,
going to go
man.
with Steve Potts.
Oh,
Sure.
nice.
So Steve Potts. Yeah. So Potts would be another boomerang player, right?
Kinda, no, yeah, kinda. He sort of he got injured for a bit, didn't he? Didn't really leave, but then he did. But then he left to play for Dagenham Redbridge, and he came back as a coach. A
Yeah,
little
so
bit
that's when you
later.
think about, and he's worked his way
Yeah,
up the youth squads, right? So you think
yeah,
about like came back for like the U13s or something, and now he's
yeah.
what
Give you that.
U21. So yeah, so you think
Yeah,
about that, he kind of makes us remember. I loved Steve Potts because he was like me. He was a utility player, like not really a right back, I know, but played majority of his time as a center back. But you could slot him in anywhere in that back
yeah,
line, and I think for me that's crucial, being that type of player. You even look at with like a Declan Rice or Arthur Masuaku or even Cresswell, right? We're like these guys that can be a little bit more versatile that, they're almost like a Swiss Army knife. You can plug them in where you need them. I dug
nice.
that. And with Potts, man, he put in so much time and one goal? Wasn't it the one goal against Hull, which was before my time? But I've
Yeah,
watched the VHS tapes when they do like the season recaps. I used to
yeah,
buy those. I actually just bought a lot off of a friend of mine on Twitter. So he sent me like
brilliant.
7 videos. But I love him. I mean, Potsy was great.
Yeah, brilliant. No, yeah, you're right. He's one of those players who's just a utility, but he was like just Mr. Reliable, wasn't he? Mr. Reliable.
Mm-hmm.
You need those in the team. You need your people who are going to be playing a solid 7 every game. You'll have,
Yeah.
but you need obviously the 9s and the 10s, and the 8s, but solid 7, you got a foundation. And yeah, we're actually doing a thing on Steve in 2 weeks' time. We're doing like a one-off special about sort of Steve Potts, and
Nice.
we've got some like a round table discussion type thing on this platform, and we've got the videos, we've got the goal and all that stuff as well. So it should be quite interesting. I'm sure Steve will tune in and watch. We're trying to get him on the channel, but very shy man, Mr. Potts is very shy. So
I believe it. I believe it.
I'm trying to convince him. Yeah, go on. Let's go centre backs then. Go on, then, man.
All right, we'll go with Rio Ferdinand. He wasn't there for long once I started tuning in, because then Harry sold him off for, I think it was like 18 mil. And then, I think worst short sale ever, because then he gets turned around and we sold him to Leeds, and then Leeds sold him to like Man United for 30 mil. Like all we had to do was hold on to him like one more season. But to be fair, we held on him too long. We would have been short selling everybody at 2003 anyways. So, but I mean, I loved him. I mean, he was kind of that standout player. he kind of embodied that, fight till you die type mentality. And I love that in a player. I love that guy. I think he was top of his game, but I don't need a guy to always be at the top, just as long as he fights, just as long as he battles for every ball. And, Rio was that dude. I think Rio, I think for a lot of people would still be that guy where had we had the opportunity to bring him back, we would have. We absolutely would have.
Definitely. And you're right. He was, and you're right in terms of what you were saying about the players. If they fight for the shirt, that's all we really want. It's not their fault if they're not technical enough or not good enough. Technically, as long as they have a go, that's all we care about. It's not their fault if someone's giving them a West Ham shirt and they're wearing it. But if they don't fight for it, that's when we turn on them. Really. Yes, Mr. Ferdinand. Okay, we'll put Rio in. Who's he going to partner than Liam in that centre back position?
So this was a duplicate from Texas. I had to go with Winnie Reed, man. I had to go with Winston. He, same thing. Well, not really the same thing as Rio, because I think Rio was more naturally gifted than Winston, but Winston would fight for the shirt, right? So same type of mentality. Just the last goal at the Bolin, you never take that away from Winston. He's over here in MLS right now, but he's that guy that when he would score, when he would get up above the rest and put the ball in the back of the net, you could tell it just meant the world to him. He's that guy that I do kind of hope eventually we do recall him from loan and he gets to just, play the last couple of games. I don't want to see him go out the way Ginge did. I want to see him be able to go out on top with the club. I think we owe him that. 10 years in, I think we owe that to Winnie.
Definitely. And he's playing, he's playing all right out there in Kansas, isn't he? He scored the other day and he's been playing, half dozen, 7-8 games now. So who knows? And I still think that's why we got Craig Dawson on loan rather than bought him, because I still think he's going to be back in January. So we shall see. But yes, no, Winston region. Yeah. I just think, you're right. He deserves a couple of run-outs and then maybe his testimonial as well, because 10 years at a club, albeit he was injured for quite a large period of it, but still, it doesn't matter. He's been a very important player for us historically, as you said, with that goal and scoring against Millwall. He's basically done. I think he scored against Tottenham as well. He's done the Holy Trinity really. He scored the last goal at the Bowling. He scored against Millwall. He scored against Spurs. So that's sort of cemented you as a legend nowadays at West Ham. So right. Let's move into the midfield. You got 3 midfield. Who's your first midfielder in the middle then?
Declan Rice. So I got to go with Dex on this one. And I kind of threw it, right? Because initially I was going to go with Kevin Nolan. Because I think, if I'm going with the passion, if I'm going with those players that really fought for the shirt. But I really had to look at, even though Nolan captained us through a very rough period, and I think he's a long-standing servant of the club, especially now being part of Moyes' staff. I loved seeing Nolan come back. But, man, if I'm picking my team, it's got to be Declan. The kid just oozes talent. And this is one of those kids where you see him and you go, man, this is future club legend. If he really sticks it out long-term with us, a la Mark Noble, this kid is going to be something else. He's going to be one for the history books for the claret and blue. And I love his passion, seeing him in those post-match interviews, last one for Man City, you could tell it means so much to him. And, we've had various players that came through that when the chips were down, they turned in the transfer request, right? And, they fucked off to another club. Declan could have done that, right? We've had a tumultuous couple of years. He could have easily been send me off somewhere else. But I've never heard anything like that. Sure, it was all the buzz about Chelsea coming in to make a request, but I never heard anything about Declan looking to leave. And I think that speaks a lot to his character and how much this club means to him. He knows what he has right now.
I totally agree. I'm so in the same boat with you, man. He knows what he's on. He knows his worth, but also he knows he could be a very, very big fish in a very small pond if he stayed at West Ham. And if reports are led to believe, he could be doubling his money in the next couple of weeks.
Even think about this though. You could be the player that goes into a squad that's already deep with talent, and you're just another guy, or you could be the standout that potentially brings a team to another level. Imagine if we start finishing top 6, and we know it's so much of it being built around Declan Rice. That's another level, man. That's something that you won't find if he just bounces off to one of those top 4 teams. Like,
No,
I think he
totally.
knows the potential he has to bring this team to another level.
Yeah, totally. And and I don't think there's any small part shouldn't be reflected on Mark Noble, because actually he knows. I mean, Mark Noble's been there ever since he's been there, since he was 14. Although I saw something today, they had like, I think Baz put it on Twitter, it was like the West Ham. No, it wasn't. It was like the most the players who have been at the club the longest, like in the world. And it's him and Messi, Noble and Messi, the top 2. That was
top
brilliant.
2. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Literally today, wasn't it? It was identical in terms. I think they are identical in terms of how long they. But he's not stupid, Declan. He knows, like I said before, if Mark plays a 6, we mark him down a 7, just because he's Mark Noble, and he knows the effect that he has in the club. And I have this sort of utopian idea that he'll see this as he can be not Mark Noble Mark II, but he can be the next Declan Rice, who's going to be the club captain, the legend. He's already played 100 Premier League games with us already, which is mental for someone so young. It's like, also like when Mark's not, playing, there's no question that Declan's going to be captain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For someone so young to be that so obvious to be a captain selected for, a club, you've got people like Fabianski, who's internet, you got these Bonner, you've got, all these players who have played so many more games, and, no, it's Declan Rice. And they, it's, and I know what you mean by the sort of the pre-match, the post-match interviews, because they're so genuine at the moment, because he's still so young and he's still so enthusiastic. There's so much more fun than a sort of a seasoned professional. So if you watch like him doing an interview compared to someone like, I don't know, like Jordan Henderson or Kevin De Bruyne or someone like that, they're so monotonous. They're so party line, where Deck is, if we've won, he's up. If we've lost, he's down. It's not like, it's a game of 2 halves. He's a genuine fan of the team. He's, he likes playing and he likes winning. Why not? Should be excited and stuff. And I just think it's brilliant that it's just nice to see. It's just different. You know what I mean? It's just different in terms of his interviews and stuff. And I think it's great. And I still can't think of anyone who plays his position better than him in the world. Can't.
Yeah. Agreed. I think 110% he is top class, especially for his age, how many games he's played, the consistency of his level. You can't argue with that. And anybody that does, they're just trying to be contentious.
Of course. And he's kicked on. He's definitely kicked on this year as well, with him and Souček in the middle. He has more license to do the stuff forward, and so does Souček. And, he's not. I always felt with Deck, like particularly the beginning of last season, he was covering Mark Noble as well. And Mark was, and no disrespect to Mark, but that's what I felt he was playing. And now with Souček, he's got a genuine, partner in midfield who works the same level of him, who comes forward, and obviously they do. And Souček's been able to come forward and get the goals, and Deck's shooting more and bring the ball forward, and it's just exciting. And it's really, really exciting at the moment. And you said you're right, if you build the team around him, he's the integral part, he's the cog in the middle. The only thing he has to he'd leave is to win trophies, and who knows, we could easily win trophies. He's already in the England squad. He's always going to hopefully going to get 120k or whatever he's a month, a week, right? A month, whatever, a week, quarter of $500,000 a month, more like, there's a, it's
at this point.
Yeah, so I can't see any reason to leave. You know what I mean? Yeah. Deck, don't go. Yeah. We won't be going to at least January, so we've got for a couple of months at least, and then we'll see what happens. But
I was hoping.
Then it all starts again, doesn't it? So you can have a breather.
Every transfer window, we're going to be biting our nails every transfer window.
No, but yeah, but again, it's drama, isn't it? It's drama. Yeah. If we're the transfer window where we didn't sign anyone, no one left, no stories, we'd be in uproar, because there's nothing going on, there's no drama going on, and so that's why we're funny West Ham fans. Right? Okay, we'll put Deck in. Who's the next person in the midfield then for you, Liam?
Well, the one we were just talking about, Mr. West Ham himself, Mark Noble. So, and it's tough, right? Because I think sometimes when we think about the 11, we're like, oh, well, if they're playing right now, and I get it, Mark's not really featuring.
No.
He's definitely the off the bench, not even a super sub. He's more of a closer. Like, you'll help put him in to help close out the match. But you think about Mark Noble prime, right? From a couple of years ago, I spoke earlier on the show about that 2014-2015 season, that Mark Noble, right? Like you pair him with a current Declan Rice, that's unstoppable. I think with Thomas Suchek, like he's able to get forward. He obviously has that height advantage, but Mark could really just stick in, right? Get a foot in, tuck in, low center of gravity, just buck somebody off the ball. And he had fight or has fight the way that Julian Dix does. Like he's that guy that is just unafraid to go toe to toe. Tex always talks about one of the moments that solidified being a West Ham fan was for him was West Ham's playing Chelsea. Drogba scores and he goes up in front of the West Ham faithful and he's like doing the irons thing to mock him. And like Mark Noble gets in his face and shoves it, like he's ready to deck him out. And immediately right there, Tex was like, "That's my boy. That's Mark Noble." Yeah. And we had seen that. I remember him coming on. The first kit he wore was 24. When I first started playing school ball, the first kid I had was 24. So I already felt like connection to Mark Noble before I really knew what he was going to be. And just to see him progress the way that he has and just really, slip into that role of, just that West Ham incarnate, you gotta give it to Mark Noble. And he's been through the ups and downs, stays faithful. I actually got into it a bit the other day with somebody on Twitter because they were bad mouthing Mark, saying the only reason he stayed at the club for as long as he did was because nobody else wanted him. And I was like, why should it matter? And why would you ever say that to a player like Mark Noble? Like if you're West Ham faithful, you would never mouth off, especially not to his face because he'd rip your head off. So, I had to go to bat for my boy. So plus it's Twitter. Everybody likes to get into it a little bit.
That's half the fun of Twitter, though, isn't it? Is the Yankee bit. But I know what you mean about Mark. He's the modern day Billy Bonds. He's our Billy Bonds, and it's going to be a weird place when he's not in the squad. Obviously, you're right. He doesn't start. He's probably not. Bless him. He's probably not even good for and then again, as soon as we start doubting him, he then finds a new gear and resurrects his career. So I liken him to Doctor Who in terms of the way he keeps on getting reincarnated as a different doctor. He gets reincarnated as a different type of footballer. As you said, he started off as a box-to-box terrier, then he dropped back into the defensive midfield role, and now for the last few games, he's playing sort of number 10 role, and like Mark was number 10, but he just works. And now he's sort of playing a bit like as you said, sort of a bit like a cheerleader role, basically. He's there as the conduit between the management, the club, the fans, and he is in that middle. He's that Venn diagram in the middle because he's a fan, he's the club captain, he's the joy, he's the linchpin between the management and the players, as we've seen. What you said on Twitter about Grady going and stuff like that. He is an integral part of the club, and he'll always be part of the club. Doesn't matter. When he hangs his boots, he'll still be a coach. And apparently he's doing his badges now. He's starting to do his badges.
I love it.
It's what you want. And and it's having those people in charge. It's having those people in the ground. As you said, people like Steve Potts, people like Kevin Nolan, people like Carlton Cole and Paul Konchesky and people like that who are in the sort of the coaching setup, because that's what it is to be a West Ham player. Mark Noble epitomises that more than anyone in the modern day, really, in terms of 506 odd appearances. Absolutely mental. Right, okay, so we've got Declan, we've got a prime Mark Noble. Who is the last person in that midfield?
This one was painful, but I went with Scotty Parker. So
that's a combative midfield, that three. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I had to think. So I like a tight mid three where they almost form a diamond, where you have the double pivot on the two defensive midfielders that can still, alternate going into a number 8 role and going box to box. But you need that pure creator. You need that number 10. And you'll definitely see why when you see my front three. But I think with Scott Parker, he has no problem pushing forward, no problem getting back. He was one of those guys that, even though I was sad to see him go, I did like the way that he went about it, where he was like, look, I feel like for my career to continue forward, and especially for me to stay in the contention for the England squad, I can't continue on with West Ham during relegation.
Totally.
Turned in his papers. And he's another one of those guys that I would have loved to see have a return to the club. I mean, even now, watching him manage Fulham, I won't ever root for Fulham when they play us, but you want to see Scotty do well. You want to see him continue to be progressing forward. And I just thought he had, he was another one of those guys that just, you could be 30 yards out and you were like, he can score 30 yards out and he's a goal threat. Like, how many people can say they have that in their tool bag? So I loved him. I thought Scotty Parker was a great player. And I think at the apex of that middle three, that's got some bite.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. And Scott Parker is one of the guys that I always go to bat for more than any other player, I think, in the modern era, because of the effort that the man play. We talk about West Ham fans talk about, putting the shirt on, playing for the shirt, putting in 100%. Scott Parker would put in 150% every game, and then when he gets vilified because he wants to go and move to a club, so as you said, because he got relegated, and he still played for a few games in the Championship for us. When he was still, I think he played the day before he left to Tottenham, and he went to Tottenham. So so what? So what? You know what I mean? It's like it's one of those things where, if you're a job and you're at Apple and Samsung want you to work for them and you go to Samsung, all your mates are going to go, yeah, fair, go on, son, off you go. You earn more money. Go on, mate. Go on. Good luck to you. Why can't that be a case? It's because, it's this utopian view of football, I think, and footballers from, they've got to play for their club and they love the club. It's a career. It's their job, isn't it? And it's like, and so he's not going to Tottenham to spite the West Ham fans. They were the best off of him. He's doing to move his kids out of school. His dad had just died and it was his deathbed he wanted to play for, or something like that, and it's happened before. We've had, like, I've said before, every time Scott Parker comes up, Martin Peters went from West Ham to Tottenham, and Martin Peters was still revered, God rest his soul. Bobby Moore was going to leave, to potentially Tottenham or Arsenal. Hello, there's a stand named after the man, you know what I mean? But Scott Parker, who won Hammer of the Year 3 times in a row, gets vilified. And I mean, with Declan Rice, we literally were opening the door. All the fans have been opening the door all summer for Declan to go. You can go, Declan. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. But why not Scott Parker? That's the thing. This winds me up so much about that. Why not Scott Parker? He needs to be addressed as a proper West Ham legend, not legend, because I think legend gets banded around too many times, but a West Ham great in terms of the modern era, because you look at how many people have won Hammer of the Year, but how many people have won it multiple times and won it multiple times in a year. He was, obviously famously Tottenham the other day, when we came back from 3-0. The last time we did that, West Brom, when we were 3-0 at half time and Scott Parker gave the team talk. He wasn't even the captain. He wasn't the captain all that season. Matty Upson was the captain that season, but every newspaper said Scott Parker. Anyway, I'm going to get off my Scott Parker soap.
But it's so true, right? And I think that's what we needed, right? And that's what was the founding thought while building this team, was those guys that they would stick in the muck, and that the halftime speech, dude, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. Calm down, Russ. Calm down. What's it going to be like when he comes and becomes our manager in about 3 or 4 years' time? Because it's going to happen, isn't it?
It's gonna.
I can't wait. I'm going to have to get.
It'll be him. It'll be him and Mark Noble. Will be good.
Yes, I like that. That'd be good. And someone else will probably retire or join the club. We'll get Julian back.
Hey, no, keep Stuart Pearce. Bring back Julian Dix. Keep Kevin Nolan. I'm good. That's a coaching staff to be reckoned with.
God, that is a coaching staff. You do not want to be 3-0 down at half time. Could you? I mean, the ones now is fucking scary. With Moyes with his Scottish accent, Alan Irvine as well. They're no slouches. Jesus. Right, let's go for your front three. Who's your first of your front three then, Liam?
So I'm going to go with right wing. I'm going to put Trevor Sinclair. I think for him, very versatile. The fact that he could play both sides, and I like that, because when you have a fluid midfield, I think it's really important to have somebody that can drift. We see it right now with Bowen, right, where Bowen can kind of drift out to that left side when needed. And I love that Trevor Sinclair had that. And I think when you think about that last season before we get relegated, right, the 2003 season, he goes out for like 4 months, and we had a huge dip in form. So you can really see that somebody that maybe didn't get the same amount of praise as some of the other players on the pitch at the time, you could see how integral he was to the success of the team, because sometimes it's not that one one person carries the team on their back, but you see that the formation falls apart because you rely on everybody to play their role. And I think Trevor did that. And even now you see him tweeting, right? Every time we've had a lot of success so far this season, and you see him just, he's jumping for joy to see West Ham do well. And I think for somebody that, he's at other clubs, and he still tweets about and talks about when he's on the talk shows and whatnot. He still talks about his other clubs, but I really feel like he's got a soft spot in his heart for West Ham.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, we've had him on the show, and he's a beautiful man, Honestly, I just think he's lovely, and been very fortunate to, since then is, we're sort of, we tweet, we DM each other, and he's like proper. He just got the club, and he was just such an incredible player for us, and I think we resurrected his career, really. I think, he was before he joined us, by all accounts, when he was interviewing him, he was saying QPR wasn't really enjoying his time towards the end. West Ham came on. He didn't think he was going to get into the first team, let alone, and then he just, and he scored 2 on his debut. And he just said, we love he talked about versatility. The guy played left back. Left wing. He played right wing back. He played right wing. He played up front. We got him back into the England squad. We got him to the World Cup as an England player. And, no, I love him. I think he's a beautiful man. And because you said Trevor Sinclair, we'll get a retweet from him. So there we go. So, it's all about that engagement, that tweet engagement. So there we go. God bless Trevor Sinclair. Right. Okay. Who's your next? Who's going to be next in this front three then, Liam?
So I'm actually going to go left wing this time. I'm going to go with the one, the only Joe Cole. So I think with Joe, right? Hammer of the year, club captain. I think he was one of those guys where he had so much talent, right? Coming up through before getting into the adult squad, the full squad, first team. I think it was incredibly important for him to make that debut, to really that hard work could pay off. And I think that he was that guy that I think even now people still think he never really hit his apex. He never really got to the absolute ceiling of his talent. But I still think he was just one of those guys where, when the chips were down, he was the guy that was going to come through. He was that guy that was going to battle to try to make it happen. And even when it didn't, you knew he gave his all. And I love Joe Cole. And, even now, or when Pellegrini was getting sacked, we were all looking at Joe Cole like, hey, you want to come back? I would have been fine seeing him on the touchline. I mean, he's like another Mark Noble for me. He's another one of those guys that he was claret and blue through and through.
Exactly. He's an incredible pundit, incredible analyst. Everyone sort of says how intelligent a player he was in terms of, his football, but he does know his football. He's a brilliant panelist. And, I'd love, obviously he's not at Chelsea now. He's doing this sort of year around. I think he's sort of going to different clubs and learning and, sort of seeing how other different coaching staff do things. And, who knows? It could be a hell of a sort of management team next. With Scott Parker and Joe Cole and Mark Noble and God, they would already get all the fans on board already, wouldn't they? With an appointment like that, you know what I mean? It's like might as well throw Rio in as a defensive coach, and so
that's
why
what
not?
I'm saying. Oh,
yeah,
you
just
might
get the
as
boys.
Well.
It's the Blues Brothers of West Ham. They're going to get the band back together again. But and Joe was just. I mean, I agree. He never really sort of hit that the upper echelons of what we thought he could do. I think it was more of a function of playing at certain teams and managers sort of putting a square peg into a round hole, so to speak. And he was very much, there was no hole for Joe Cole. There was no piece. He was just Joe Cole. And he would have just been better if you just let him play. Just let him be Joe Cole. And don't put him on the left. Don't put him on the right. Just let him just do what he wants. But nowadays, you don't have that free role in the game anymore now. So everything's so decompartmentalized into positions that I don't think a player like Joe Cole would have thrived ever again, because you wouldn't have had a place for him in a team. And he'd end up being put somewhere which wouldn't suit him. And poor, always felt really sorry for him, because we knew about him since he was 12. You know what I mean? It's talk about pressure. Poor bugger.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even when he when he signed his pro forms, that was on the pitch. It was 16 on the pitch. It was against Chelsea. Pardon me. Ironically, I've got really bad hiccups now. And so I feel really sorry for the man because he never really had a chance to grow. The level of expectation was so high from him already. So, but he still had a great career and another boomerang player because he obviously came back. So, another boomerang player. Right. Who is the last piece of the Liam pie? Who's going to spearhead this attack and get all the goals?
This is my first favorite player, man, Paulo Di Canio. This is the, he was an absolute baller, hammer of the year, had that fiery Italian attitude that I think just played well off of like the West Ham mentality. And I think one of the things I really appreciated about Paulo was, other clubs would look like they were coming calling, and he would flat out say like, no, I owe West Ham for giving me a lifeline. Like my career was pretty much, he was coming off it was like multiple bans. He was banned for 11 matches or something.
Yeah,
dead, career potentially dead in the water. Harry Redknapp, knowing that he's taking a chance on bringing this guy in, brings him in and just completely rewards them for their faith in what he did. Still talks about the club as though, he was there for far longer than he was. I mean, it was only a handful of years before, he ended up having to go with most of the people I put on this team, to be honest with you. 2003 was not a good year for us. But, I love that he still has that passion. I mean, you saw him, when he come, what was it? Mark Noble's testimonial, right?
Yeah.
You can still see that he loves doing what he does. Like he loves being on the pitch. And for me, he's another one that, you want to put him on the touchline. We will never have a player that gives less than 110%.
No, that's true.
Every single match, because they will fear going in at halftime if we're down.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he'd probably ruffle a few feathers with Paolo if he was on the touchline. There wouldn't be many, probably wouldn't be a lot of players left. They'd all put transfer requests in because he has such this high expectation level, and if no one reached it, he'd bloody tell them. So not a bad thing, but an absolute nutter of a player as well. But again, just a showman. He was like an entertainer, and you'd pay your entrance fee just to watch him. And not so much from a technical perspective because he was a fantastically technical player, but also he was like just what the package. You didn't know what Paolo you were going to get that day. Were you going to get the mesmeric magician? Was you going to get the sort of adolescent teenager Paolo Di Canio? Would you get and maybe get a combination of everyone? And that's the jackpot. But no, he was an absolute legend, and he was my favourite player of all time, just because not the technical best player, but he was my favourite player because I just think he had that pet passion, he had that connection with the fans, which is clearly an Italian thing, I think, and it just worked, didn't it? It just worked, that combination of West Ham and Paolo, and as you said, we gave him his opportunity, and he'll never forget that because he became a Premier League legend, really. I mean, even at Sheffield Wednesday, he was playing well, but he wasn't really getting the headlines, and he wasn't really digging up trees there. And, obviously then he pushed over a referee and had a 12-match ban or whatever, and then came to it. It's such a West Ham thing to do, though. We just pick up these cast-offs. And, as you said, I mean, there was a time when Man United came calling for him, wasn't it? And so, famously didn't go, and he became, a Premier legend, obviously, scored arguably the best goal ever in the Premier League, assist by your right wing. So it all fits nicely. It all fits nicely, Liam. Listen, man.
Thank you.
It's been lovely chatting to you. We're literally an hour and 3 minutes has flown by. So I appreciate your time. It does, doesn't it? It does. You don't realise. You just sit there chatting about West Ham. You look at the clock. Oh, fuck. It's an hour and 3 minutes. But no, listen, man, it's been absolutely pleasure. Thank you so much, and obviously, thank you for everything you do at the Fresno Irons and stuff. I love hearing about it, and the sooner that we can start traveling again, and I can get over and see some of the guys, the better. Because hopefully you try and time it for when we have an away game, so so I can go over and watch it. It'd be awesome. But I don't think I can get up so early than you guys. You guys are absolutely nutters getting up so early. But it's been great,
you'll have
man.
to come stay for like a week so you can acclimate to the time change, and then that way you'll be ready for it before you got to get up early.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, in my old job, I used to do a lot of traveling. I used to travel all over the States, and so this new job I don't travel so much. But I used to. It was mainly East Coast. I'll be honest, it was mainly East Coast, just because it was only like a 5-hour time difference. But I did, I went and I checked out. We went to West Coast, and I did some stuff with some of the guys out there, like James Longman and stuff like that, the Hollywood Hammers and stuff. So so it's we'll see. But that's when we can start traveling again. Fuck knows when that's going to be. So we'll see when Trump lets us in as well. When's he going to let us in? I don't know. But anyway, we'll come banging at the door. But I'll be definitely on as soon as we can, man. As I said, 100%. An absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your time.
And thank you for everyone who's been watching or listening. So everyone watching on YouTube, like, share the video, subscribe. Obviously, Hammers Chat. American Hammers Network. Get online. Obviously, Liam and Tex co-host the American Hammers Radio as well. So make sure you get down with that. And if you're listening on Spotify or podcasts or I don't know, Alexa or whatever, make sure you give it a like, give it a share. I've got it all now, Liam. I've got it all. It's on all the time.
Just gotta go down the list.
Play My Hammers 11. One day that's going to work, and everyone's.
We'll never have to do anything else.
No, that's it. Just all done, man. And then until next time, cover your eyes. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash your hands, and see you again very, very soon.